Are you struggling to keep your heart rate low during your runs, or are you frustrated with how slow your zone 2 pace is? Well, you're not alone. Not too long ago, I had the exact same problem. Anytime a small hill approached, my heart rate would spike dramatically, and that's not even the biggest problem. Keeping my heart rate low was also a struggle on flat roads. Many times, I had to reduce my running down to a walk just to bring my heart rate back down to within my zone 2 range. However, I've gone from running over 7 minutes per kilometer down to slightly over 5 minutes per kilometer at my zone 2 heart rate. I can even now comfortably run up hills without my heart rate spiking. And to put that to the test, I ran a marathon over undulating terrain at my zone 2 heart rate of about 133 to 137 beats per minute for the entire distance. And from my Strava training log, you can see that my average pace was 5 minutes 15 seconds per kilometer, and I completed the distance in 3 hours and 47 minutes. Now, elite runners can of course run a sub 3-hour marathon in zone 2, but for me, turning 47 years old this year and only been in the sport of running for a couple of years, that's a huge improvement. And how did I do that? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you in this video. I learned that there are 3 main factors that can determine how fast you or I can run at any given heart rate. That's our bioenergetic system, our lactate threshold, and our running economy. There are also a few external factors that can temporarily influence our running heart rate, which I'll unpack in just a moment. Stick around because I'll also share some simple hacks to lower your heart rate instantly during your next run and reveal how long it took me to improve from running over 7 minutes per kilometer down to 5 minutes 15 seconds per kilometer, all while staying within my zone 2 heart rate range. Let's start with a bioenergetic system. This system has 3 subsystems: the aerobic system, the anaerobic system, and the ATP-PC system, where ATP-PC stands for adenosine triphosphate phosphocreatine. Of these, the one that we need to focus on for improving speed at a low heart rate is the aerobic system. And why is that? Well, the anaerobic system kicks in when we are running close to our maximum heart rate, and the ATP-PC system powers short, explosive efforts like sprints. But the aerobic system, as the name suggests, relies on oxygen to convert energy substrates, primarily fats and carbohydrates, into ATP, the energy currency of our cells. The key point here is that fats require oxygen to be oxidized, but carbohydrates can be oxidized without oxygen. This means that our aerobic system is vital for efficient fat burning, especially during low intensity efforts like zone 2 running. So how does this work? Well, to produce energy, oxygen moves through the air we breathe into our lungs, through our blood, and finally to the mitochondria in our working muscles. These mitochondria, our body's power plants, can only use as much oxygen as our aerobic system can deliver. So the better we are at delivering oxygen, the more efficient our muscles can burn fat and create the mechanical force needed to propel us forwards. Now, depending on how intensely we're running, we draw on fats and carbohydrates in different ratios. At lower intensities like in zone 2, our muscles burn more fat than carbohydrates. When fat is oxidized, the byproducts are carbon dioxide and water, a very clean source of energy. But when carbohydrates are oxidized, the byproduct is lactate. Now here's where it gets interesting. The less oxygen available, the more heavily we rely on carbohydrate oxidation, which increases lactate production. Along with lactate, hydrogen ions are also released during this process, and these hydrogen ions are what cause that undesirable burning sensation in our muscles as running intensity increases. So what's the takeaway? Well, the more oxygen we can deliver to our muscles at any given intensity, the more we can rely on fat oxidation, reduce lactate buildup, and most importantly, run faster at a lower heart rate. But how do we increase our ability to deliver oxygen? Well, this is where zone 2 training comes into play. By spending more time training in zone 2, we strengthen the heart muscle, allowing it to pump more blood with each beat. We also improve our lung capacity, increasing the amount of air we take in and boost the oxygen density in our blood. Most importantly, we stimulate the growth of more mitochondria in our muscles, enabling them to process more oxygen and generate more energy. The downside to this is that this process doesn't happen overnight, but with consistency, it can lead to dramatic improvements in how efficiently we run at lower heart rates. So if you want to run faster while keeping your heart rate in check, zone 2 training is your secret weapon. The next factor is your lactic threshold. At low running pace and intensity, not much lactate is produced and it can easily be cleared from the muscles. But as pace and intensity increases, so does lactate production beyond the point where it is produced more quickly than it can be cleared, leading to an accumulation of lactate within the muscles. This makes the environment within the muscles very acidic, hampering muscle contraction and forcing us to slow down. For most runners, their lactic threshold sits around 75% of their VO2 max, but elite athletes can push it up to 85 or even 90% of VO2 max. Now, the higher your lactic threshold, the more aerobic capacity you can make use of, resulting in a faster running pace at the same heart rate. And how do we increase our lactate threshold? Well, to raise your lactic threshold, incorporate threshold runs and interval training into your program. By combining these two with consistent zone 2 training, it creates the perfect environment for improvement improvement. The third factor now is your running economy. You can think of running economy as how efficient you use oxygen. While the aerobic system plays a huge role, your running economy also determines how fast you can run at a low heart rate. This is all about the efficient use of all that oxygen that we've brought into our bodies. The more economical we are, the less oxygen we spend to produce a certain amount of mechanical output. Another way to put this is that if we improve our running economy, we will use less oxygen to run at a certain pace, or we can run at a faster pace while using the same amount of oxygen. Think of it this way: the less oxygen you spend to produce a given amount of force, the more oxygen you have left in reserve. So how do we improve our running economy? Well, to improve your running economy, it comes down to three main factors. The first is time and mileage. The more time you spend running and the longer time that you have been running, the better your neuromuscular efficiency becomes and the more your muscles are able to take in oxygen efficiently. Next is strength training. Exercises like plyometrics and compound lifts build muscle power and neuromuscular coordination. And the third is running form and biomechanics. By refining your running form and working to develop a more biomechanically efficient stride, reduces wasted energy and it helps direct all your energy into propelling you forwards and not rocking side to side or bouncing up and down. Now, your bioenergetic system, your lactate threshold, and your running economy all takes a good amount of training time to see changes, but coming up are some simple hacks that you can use to lower your heart rate instantly during your next run. But before we dive into those hacks, let's touch on a few external factors that can temporarily influence your running heart rate. These are important to understand because they can make a big difference in how you interpret your training data on any given day. One major factor is temperature and weather conditions. Running in hot and humid weather forces your body to work harder to cool itself down, which can elevate your heart rate. On the flip side, running in cold weather might initially make your heart rate lower than usual as your body conserves energy to stay warm. Another key factor is hydration. Even with mild dehydration, your heart rate can increase as your blood becomes thicker and your heart has to pump harder to circulate it efficiently. That's why it's essential to always stay properly hydrated, especially on long runs and in warm conditions. Altitude also plays a role. When you're running at higher altitudes, there's less oxygen available in the air. Your heart rate increases as your body tries to compensate for this reduced oxygen supply. Now, stress and fatigue, whether physical or mental, are also significant contributors. If you had a bad night's sleep, a stressful day before, or you're carrying accumulated fatigue from the previous training sessions, your heart rate can be noticeably higher, even at lower intensities. Another overlooked factor is caffeine and stimulants. If you had a strong coffee or an energy drink that contained caffeine before your run, these stimulants can temporarily raise your heart rate. Finally, your nutrition and fueling also plays a role. If your glycogen stores are depleted from previous workouts or you're running fasted, your heart rate might be higher as your body struggles to meet energy demands. Being aware of these external factors can help you interpret your heart rate data more accurately. If you notice your heart rate is unusually high during a run, it might not be a reflection of your fitness, but rather one or more of these temporary factors. And what about the simple hacks to lower your heart rate during your next run? Well, the first is to control your breathing with a 2-2 rhythm. A consistent breathing pattern can help calm your heart rate and make your running more efficient. One method is to try the 2-2 breathing rhythm, where you inhale for 2 strikes and you exhale for 2 strikes. This rhythm promotes deeper, more efficient breathing, calming your heart rate and optimizing oxygen delivery. Next is to focus on your running form. Efficient running form can significantly impact your running pace at any given heart rate. Keep your posture upright but relaxed with a slight forward lean from your ankles and not from your waist. Your arms should swing naturally at your sides with your elbows bent at about 90 degrees. Avoid excessive crossing of your arms in front of your body. Also, shorten your strides slightly to prevent overstriding, which can waste energy. By reducing unnecessary movements and improving efficiency, you can keep your effort level and your heart rate more stable. The third is to focus on relaxation. I know this might sound strange while you're running, but tension in your body can elevate your heart rate unnecessarily. Now take a moment to assess your form. Are your shoulders tense? Is your jaw or your fist clenched? Relax all the muscles that you don't use to propel yourself forwards while running and focus on maintaining smooth, efficient movements. With all these strategies in place and a consistent focus on low intensity zone 2 training, I managed to see significant improvements in my running performance. As mentioned earlier, when I started zone 2 training, I was running over 7 minutes per kilometer. Progress felt painfully slow at times, but I trusted the process, and over the course of 24 months, yes, that's 2 full years of consistent training, refining my form and focusing on aerobic development, I can now sustain a pace of 5 minutes 15 seconds per kilometer over the distance of a full marathon while keeping my heart rate within the zone 2 range. Now it's your turn. Lace up, trust the process, and enjoy the journey to becoming a stronger, faster, and more efficient runner. But before you do that, you can watch this video here where I share some simple cues to focus on to help you improve your running form. Share with me by commenting below what is your biggest takeaway from this video, and if you enjoyed the content of this video, video, I would really appreciate if you could smash the like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Cheers.